to today's episode. We have a couple of exciting guests. For those just tuning in, we are OptiMindX, and we specialize in helping businesses in the health, wellness, and entrepreneurial space streamline, automate, and scale their revenue using AI. If you want to take your experience-led brand to the next level, make sure to stick around. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop the word growth in the DMs. Before we dive in, we want to spotlight Creating Fun, a revolutionary incubator at the intersection of music, cannabis, technology, and art. It is more than a brand, it is a movement that architects transformative, immersive experience from Sedona to Las Vegas, from pop-up galleries to sonic healing journeys. Creating Fun powers initiatives like spiritual plants, Past 9, builds retreats, art shows, and live streams, and curates spaces where creativity thrives, consciousness expands, and new worlds emerge. Welcome to the OptiMindX podcast, where we sit down with entrepreneurs and innovators shaping the future of business, health, wellness, and culture. OptiMindX shines a light on real insights, both the triumphs and the hurdles, highlighting what audience truly want rather than just what's trending. Today, we're joined by Craig Gross, the founder of Creating Fun. Craig has spent decades as a disruptor and building across faith, digital culture, and experimental art. His journey now coverages in an ecosystem that includes spiritual plants for plant-forward wellness and consciousness. Now, Jason Harper joins us as well as an author, a culture builder, as well as culture disruptor. In any situation of an injustice, just look into the forefront and you will find Jason Harper. He's a deep diver into the AI realm, and it is very exciting to see how the partnership between Craig Gross today and Jason Harper has unraveled to the world that they have curated. Both of their works explore frequency, ritual, technology, and how it can open doors to personal and cultural renewal. Craig and Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you for both for coming here today. And Craig, amazing to have you again and continue this super interesting conversation where we left last time. And to give you a proper introduction this time, last time was more of like just go in and speak your voice, which was amazing. Now just to give that introduction that both of you deserved. So to start, and this is a question for both of you. And I guess like for Craig, you describe Creating Fun as an experiment in surrender, generosity, and innovation. What was the catalyst that led you to sell it all and start this journey? And both of you can jump in on that.
It was 20 years of marriage, and I said to him, my wife actually said to me, I can't do another 20 like this. And I was like any dude, like, give me 30 days, I'll fix this shit. It was like, my board member, Matt Chateau, had sent me Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind. And he said, if there's truth in it, you'll find it and probably show us all. So I got a hold of Michael Pollan, and then I got a hold of a few other people. And then I tried MDMA and mushrooms within 3 weeks. And it was on a mushroom trip where I got out my phone. I was smart enough to not go live or quit my job live. But I was with my rock star friend, Dave, and I said, I'm done saving anyone. I'm done doing the work I've been doing. And it just landed. I was able to see something I couldn't see, that I'd never been able to see. I started xxxchurch.com, and I never knew why. And I realized on mushrooms, I'm proving the whole time I'm not my dad, because I found porn in my dad's car, and I never told anyone. And I never ratted him out on a stage as a speaker because I blamed it on my friend's dad. And so I carried that secret my whole life. And then on mushrooms, it was like, I said to my friend, record this. I'm going to start a company called Creating Fun. We shouldn't have a website or an email because that's not fun, but I got to go buy it and get a logo. And I'm just going to do this. I'm going to help get people to this space, and we can create here. And I was everyone's 911 call. And I was like, if I could be with people when they're flying in this consciousness. Then my wife got cancer. The world shut down. I did ayahuasca and was shown a vision that looked more like Noah's Ark than anything I'd ever seen. And I went all in, and I built a retreat center because I knew I'd been an invited guest into so many rooms around the world that during a fake lockdown that I didn't believe in, and Disneyland's closed and all the health spas are closed, that I could make a run at it. And it was on mushrooms. Then I went and watched that video back the next day to see if I liked that guy. And I was like, oh yeah, I got to do that. And within 2 months, I resigned from Triple X Church. I flew a plane over Coachella, and I just went for it. I didn't know how. I knew eventually I could monetize it, but starting creating fun, it was never about money up front. It was about shifting frequencies. And yeah, I'm glad I did it. But that was the March of 2019 is when I tried mushrooms for the first time. And I thought, as a cannabis user, oh, that's just the next step. And I feel like cannabis was like an elementary education, and that mushrooms experience over in one day felt like a kid like master's degree, because it was like, oh wow, I'm totally out of my wheelhouse, and I don't even know who I am at this point in my life. And so that's when I came back, and my wife Jeanette at the time trusted who I was learning from. Like, these aren't jokers, these are the leaders in this space. She saw the reverence that I had for it, and about a month later, she was ready for her first experience. And from there, we showed as many people as we wanted to come through that door.
Jason, if you could speak to your journey, where you began and where you are today as well, what is it that was the catalyst for you to take on becoming an author and diving into AI?
So like Craig, I've been around the religious world most of my adult life. And like Craig, we have such parallel paths, even though we weren't in dialogue for a season, where I had gone through a nasty divorce, and the religious world doesn't really have a space for a divorced person to be a leader in the church, right or wrong, which I think is wrong. But I found myself at 45 years old transitioning and realizing my adult life, all I had done was work for nonprofit, philanthropic work in education equality. And at that age, there was just not a lot of roads to go down. I had a friend of mine who told me that he was a fabricator of large greenhouses, and he was working for the National Forest Service, developing trees, and had all these projects. And he says, if you're not working in the faith-based world anymore, I would love for you to come down and, like a consultant, observe my business, see what's going on, see how it's working. And I said, cool, I'm in. If it'll pay me, I'm in, because I was like down to my last $5. I needed somewhere to go. So I went down to his place of business. And when I drove on to the campus, it was a series of large mixed light greenhouses. And at this point, I'm still clueless. And then he tells me, yeah, this farm, we grow cannabis, licensed for the state of California. And I was like, oh God, this is going to be interesting. How do I go from pastor to pot? Because the reality too was that at that point, I had never seen or been around weed. I'm not a weed connoisseur, but I understand people and processes. And so I made it clear to him that I couldn't offer much on the cultivation side, but I could offer a lot on strategies and systems to better his processes. And after a couple of weeks, I sat with him and said, dude, your people are robbing you blind. They're unethical. They're doing dope while they're on the job. And he's like, can you just clean house for me? So within a matter of a month or two, I became the manager of that 20-acre facility. And I'm laughing because at the time, I don't know anything about weed, zero. I didn't know how to trim it. I didn't know how to grow. I knew nothing. And he says, if you can follow a checklist and follow instructions, then you can be this guy. So fast forward 5 years, we had 18 greenhouses a greenhouse was about the size of a half of a football field each one. So you can imagine the size of canopy. And I think when I got there, I think we were doing like maybe 30 pounds a month. And by the time I left in middle of 19, our facility was established enough to do 2,000 pounds a month. So it went from kind of nothing to explosive in size. And I actually I didn't even really care so much about the plant. I care about the person. And if I could help the people, find the best version of themselves, that would also be the best version of employment. And so through that, we built a very strong team and network. And it got to where counties, law enforcement, drug agencies would actually come to our facility to give a tour to new cannabis growers, specifically to show them this is how to do it correctly. And so I started getting calls for consultations, and I'm sitting back going, I really know nothing about this at the time, but I just have this incredible belief that if people are given the right direction, the right instruction, and are cared about, they'll move the world for you. And we ran that 18 greenhouse facility with about 9 people, which is crazy because most people would have 9 people per greenhouse, but we just had a lot of proprietary things working for us to help us automate. So I knew there would be a big hurdle for people to go, oh my goodness, Jason's working at a cannabis farm. And I mean, there were rumors that, so many rumors. You work as a process driver for a fabricating farm company, and your friends from the past think you're running and smuggling drugs, because it's just everybody wants to exacerbate the non-truths. So I had a lot of conversations I had to have with people to go, no, really, I still have a really good belief in Jesus. We're cool there, okay? And I'm not real fond of his people right now, but he's cool. I'm down with that. And I look at it like, now that it's licensed, it's legal, I liken it to what I was doing is very similar to growing grapes for wine. You're just growing a process. And what really moved me about staying on there for so long was that a good portion of what we were growing was going to people for the medicinal side of cancer research and how to, use THC and Rick Simpson oil and things like that are very terpene driven towards anti-inflammation. And before I knew it, I had somehow become an expert on cannabis growth. So it was like pastor to pot, but it's a very wild path. So fast forward, I hadn't seen Craig in a while. I saw an Instagram post he made, and I called him and I go, hey man, what's going on? He goes, what are you doing? I go, I'm managing a farm. And he's like, what? And so I go, yeah, you can come out and visit, but I need you to sign a couple non-disclosure agreements. And at that point, even messing with him, like to say, hey, I'm going to blindfold you so you can't see where we're going. So the last 5 miles will be blindfolded. That was more for dramatic effect, but it was interesting. And so now, after being there for 4.5 years, I was given partial ownership of the company in equity. And that was kind of the reward of living in this very deep, obsolete place by myself, 20 acres. And it was the most refreshing time of my life, because at the same time, I was being given the opportunity to rebuild my soul and also refine humanity in people who have the similar beliefs as me.
I love that so much. That was a very incredible journey from beginning, as you said, from pastor to pot. And I do want to segue and touch on that. Is you were a pastor prior going into the realm of pot. Now, what could you speak to? What drove you to take that role on early on?
I think for me, it was a matter, if I'm just being very all candor here, is I was needing a job and I was needing something quickly. And so this friend of mine, without any questions of who, what, where, why, he said, I know you, Jason. I know you build processes. I know you have a history of building high performance teams. I know that you think quick, you think fast, and I don't need you to know anything about the plant. I'll tell you about that. All I need you to do is follow these processes. And in that world, oftentimes that's the struggle, because farm owners may not know about the plant, but then you get some guy who's grown, some garbage weed in his mom's attic when he was in 9th grade that's an expert now trying to tell us better processes. So your master growers often become like these self-appointed experts. And he didn't want that, because that kept him in conflict with the people that he worked there. He's like, just follow my processes. And that transition was made. I ended up bringing friends of mine that were also pastors in ministry. I would bring them down and give them tours of the farm. In fact, Craig, what was the magazine cover you were on?
Yeah, High Times and all the press wanted, you know, me around weed. And I was like, Jason, can I come? He's like, yeah, I'm going to blindfold you, but take these photos, but don't say where it's at. But I got
So
all
he,
the photos, and it was so surreal for me to be with you there, because I'm like, oh, Jason, if Jason trusts these guys, yeah, you can just jump a lot of steps when you have somebody like, that inside.
So for me, it was, we took Craig and slapped him in the middle of 5 foot high plants that are growing mayonnaise sized jars of flour. And he's just like, dude, a few years ago, we were on the same stage speaking about different things that were faith based, and where Craig has had more of a deconstruction of some of the religious uh, rules and regulations that he was raised with. I still count myself as a absolute faith filled person who's very spiritual. I say, like I said earlier, I love Jesus. I just got a problem with his people. I can't palate the rituals, the routines, the regulations, the rules, the oppression, and the way that religion is used for oppression, really. So it was awesome to be able to get me out of that world and have this incredible farm around me where literally every day I would go to, sleep with no street lights, no sound. And it was very, it was methodically healing for me because I had to put together, basically had to put my life back together because after the divorce, it just was a shattered wreck. But to this day, people go, oh, well, are you a cannabis smoker, weeder? And I'm like, actually, I just know how to grow it really good. And sometimes I think that makes some of your best leaders in farm world because you're not always partaking, and the best leader of a farm is someone who doesn't smoke weed. Because then you don't have to worry about product being misdirected and what have you. So, I was enjoying the process. I love the challenge. I mean, to go from a farm that's putting out 30 pounds a month to having infrastructure that under optimal conditions can, do 2,000 pounds a month. That's a big process. That's a big farm. And, one greenhouse we could turn over 6 times in a year if we did it correctly. So you have 18 greenhouses that are each doing 6 turns a year. That's a lot of medicinal flower.
That's an incredible transformation.
You got to smoke some of it, Jason. You got to smoke some of that.
I go jog. I go run.
The runner's high. The runner's
That's right.
high. So, in regards to the faith and spiritual shift that both of you mutually experienced in your own realm, could you both speak to what came about that propelled that transition? That now today, Jason, you identify as culture binder and disruptor, and I can say the same for Greg. You guys are disruptors in the space. And how within faith did that come about for you both mutually? It's a question for both.
Yeah, let me this will be fun because this is
fun stories.
Yeah, this is
unbelievable stories if we didn't have the receipts and the pictures to prove it. Go ahead, Craig.
Well, we've just pushed up against everything, and I think there's no difference or separation in any of us. I'm not ahead or behind anyone, but I think I look at life as like, if I met you at the Rose Bowl and we're doing the track, I don't know how many laps you've done if we catch up somewhere. I might be on lap 10. Jason might be on lap, knowing him, 100. Guys run 800 miles. So I feel like cannabis opened the door, and I was like, man, if I put Christian cannabis out, like, it's going to release people from all the lies that they're telling us about religion. Mushrooms, ayahuasca, 5-MeO-DMT combo, all the plant medicine work showed me and took me more back to myself. So for me, it's a process, and then a study of other religious leaders, from monks to medicine men to women that were into chakras, and I explored it all with no attachment to any of it. And Jesus has still been my greatest teacher and the guy I know the most about. I really like the red letters. I never really cared for the whole Bible, but the red letters So I think where I'm at now is Jesus is a friend. If we saw each other, I think we would be cool. I don't need him as a savior, and I don't believe he came to save any of us. So when me and Jason push up on is, I think, and there's no judgment, but Jason's still attached to a Jesus as a savior and I'm like, he's not coming back. The resurrection is this return of Christ consciousness in all of us. And that's where people say, I've done too many drugs and I think I'm God. No, I think I never got that a Christian had to read something, accept it during a prayer, say it back, stand in line, and then that sealed the deal. Whereas if we all have a spirit in us, that spirit came more alive the less I did in the world. And then I found a consciousness that I think aligns with Christ and many other elevated beings. And I don't believe the script now. And so that's what's fun when Jason and I create. I'll say something through an AI voice that he's created, and I'll take it somewhere where I'm like, play it back, have it bother you, because I think there is a breaking of religion. If we watch the Charlie Kirk memorial, that felt like the most tainted religious, crusade I've ever seen with a political arm to it. And now everyone's claiming this character of Jesus that looks nothing like we're getting further and further away from it. So 4/1/19 was the last church I ever spoke at, and I hadn't been back to church. I just stopped. Like the things Rob Bell said once, stop doing the things that you don't do. Like your kids will figure it out. If it's not a hell yes, don't do it. And I just gave it all up and just found something that doesn't need anything outside of me. And but it's been a lifelong, I mean, my degree's in biblical studies, and I've been in this world, and I brought Jesus into rooms that people said you never could. And now I'm like, I don't have to bring Jesus anywhere. The guy fucking walked on water. He showed everyone how to do it, and nobody did it except for Peter. And then he fell, and then he betrayed him. So I see now we're turning Charlie Kirk into a new Jesus. And Jesus was never here, in my opinion, to save anyone. He was here to show us back to ourselves. That's where I'm at. Jason's where he's at. So
I think I hear what Craig says, and I think that the tension that is there between our two polar opposite beliefs and views of Jesus. He and I wrote our biggest book was in 2010, and it was ironically originally going to be called Hijack Jesus, because we felt like this Jesus message had been hijacked from what his original theme was, to love people. And for him, no, people didn't walk around going, oh man, Jesus is a mean person. I've never met anybody who says he's a jerk. He never. But the problem is when it gets to the human level and the oppression level and the desire to control narratives and people's lives. For me, I was like, I got to take a pause there. For working with Craig, it was interesting because I had lived my life with this mantra that I want to give myself to a cause that's bigger than me. I want to practice radical inclusion, and I also want to leave the world better than I found it. And in order to accomplish those three things, I have to be comfortable sitting with people who don't look like, talk like, act like, think like, believe like, or vote like me. And I got to be okay with that. And I am. And so working with Craig, I was on staff at this large church, and Craig would invite me out to these things that really were life-giving to me because they were edgy, they were cutting edge, they were confrontational, and they're all the places religion told me not to go. So, whether that be blowing up a 60-foot phallic penis on top of a building at the Super Bowl called Wally the Wiener to get promo for Triple X Church, or being hit by a drunk driver in a tour bus and having Ron Jeremy land on top of me and nearly break my ankle, to going to Westboro Baptist. If you remember those people, they have the God hates people. Craig and I trolled them on their own compound, and basically nearly shut down a American Idol tour because we started trending for our confrontation with those people. Those things just added all up to me, because I go, this is where Jesus would be if he was here today. He wouldn't be hiding in some shadowed down steeple, dusty book library. He would be out with the people. And so it was very easy to create memories and create incredible memories and movements in the stuff that I did with Craig. I think for me, the most awkward part is people have asked, well, you guys partnered on this book that was ultimately, it went from Hijack Jesus to be called Jesus Loves You, This I Know. Right. A lot of people hear that song growing up, and I'm like, that's the stupidest title I've ever heard. I mean, how cheesy Sunday school crappy can you get? And then the publisher or Craig, I don't recall, one of them said, well, wait a minute. This is a message that those inside the church need to hear. So if they see that cover, they're going to be drawn to it only to get halfway through the first chapter and have a bloody lip from being chin checked. And so I was like, wow, that's kind of a good idea. So, he and I are then traveling around the country. But now people are asking, Jason, how do you handle that? Are you still friends with Craig? Yeah, of course I am. He's my brother. I love him. And yet they would go, well, he's just this, and he doesn't believe this. I go, as many of my friends believe different. What someone believes should not dictate whether or not I can have a relationship with them. So I think for some levels of it, I was able to have the stability of working in a large church that gave me quite a bit of latitude to do things. But I was able to vicariously partner with Craig on all these edgy things that were, getting us front page news covers to tell our story.
And it was a 25-foot. It's Wally the Wiener. It had a happy face on it, but it wasn't 60 feet, Jason. Let's not bastards count. It was 25 feet. It was 25
I just know it was heavy because the wind was blowing, and I had a rope tied around my waist. And as the wiener started to fall off the building, I'm throwing my body to hold it back. So I apologize if I embellished the length of the wiener.
It was 25. I couldn't get a 60, but it was giant. Yeah, it was 25.
The next thing I know, the police are on top of the building laughing so hard. They don't know what to do, whether to arrest me or not. I've got a guy down on the road that I'm waving at like, hey, take the picture so we can put this down, because we just knew that somebody would drive. It literally was at the Super Bowl, the last portal before you got into the Super Bowl. And so Craig's like, well, dude, people are going to come by and they're going to see this and they're going to just want to know whose wiener is that? And so I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. Cool. And that was just one of many crazy detours that he and I were able to take again. But I still stand next to him as my brother. I love him. Despite his kookiness, despite his woo-woo shit, he's still my brother. And a lot of the stuff that I believe he would call woo-woo. And there's a lot of things we agree on. So I think it's a perfect tension, because if you think of a trampoline, the tighter you pull the tension between the opposite sides, the larger the launch. So he's pulling from his side, I'm pulling from my side, and together the entity, the object, or the message is taking this astronomical leap.
Jason's preaching now.
No, man, I'm just sharing my story.
On the note of making decisions that have been disruptive, whether it is in conversations or what you have shared that you both mutually have taken on together to bring awareness to a brand or bring awareness to a conversation through the book, making these choices. Can you guys speak to how today the disruption that once began 30 years ago and has transitioned over to where we are today, how has it changed, and what is the goal with the disruption that you guys curate with the work that you do?
All right, let me kick this one.
Yeah, it's Craig.
Craig. Because Jason, he'll call it woo-woo, but like synchronicities, numbers, signs, they're everywhere when you're tuned into it. So when you have I've lived with nothing for 16 months. Most people don't know, but on 4/20/23, I told my family, we're going to give away everything we have, nothing. And I had a new wife at the time that I didn't know would stay with me if I had nothing. I told her, you've watched me give it all away. So on 4/20/23, I got invited to Woody Harrelson's lounge, and it was 40% off all my business partners' products. So I spent my last $400 on 4/20/23. I had to get a loan shark the next week to pay rent. And then I've been on this journey with nothing. And when I've had nothing, it's allowed me to do some of the craziest things because I've been outside of financial system, just waiting for everything we built to show. You know, I've got a tattoo for my son's album that hasn't come out yet. Things have been stuck in the process because I think a lot of people aren't through their healing journey, and we have products on the other side of that. But so I've been patiently waiting, and I meet people now and they come into my life. So I hadn't talked to Jason, but the last time we had gone out of touch, I call him and he's at a cannabis farm and I need photos. So there's a guy named Richard Carmen. He's the head of audiology for 40 years. He's been published. He wrote one of the first guys to study UFOs. I met him in Sedona and he just had this divine conversation with me and he handed me his book. I handed him my book called Bankrupt But Spiritually Rich. And then he wrote me this long email tracking my book to his book and what he said 35 years prior. So he hired me to come market his new book called The Voice. That was a book about UFOs from an 81-year-old man that is retired, living in Sedona, and doesn't give any fucks now. And he said, if I would have published this back 30 years ago, I would have been killed. So I'm working for him, and that job had finished, and I had actually taken out Jesus Loves You, This I Know, because sometimes it's like people think I'm so fucking weird. It's like, look, I used to do shit. Here's a newspaper article, and I fought for the Jesus Loves You, This I Know book. I knew once people read it, they would be bothered by it. But I asked the publisher to make it a hardback so Jason and I could have a hardback book because it just had. And so I got it out of my car. And something in my spirit was like, no, like, keep this book. And it was like my only copy left. And I'm driving away from his house, not knowing what I'm doing next and, you know, how I'm going to get to Oakland. And Jason calls me. And he's like, whoa, I'm trying to get a hold of you. And I was like, oh, my God, I'm staring at our book. By the end of the phone call, he sends me an Apple Pay for like $175. The next week, this guy trusts me enough to download an app called Flip and start talking to AI babes with me. And it was like this. We offloaded to each other like, hey, here's what we've missed. You know, he's not been able to talk to his kids for years. Same with me. And so we kind of came back in this moment. And I said, man, I'm going to get to Oakland on 420. It would mean the world if you showed up, and anything you want me to show you along the way that you are in tune to, I'll show you any of the tricks. So that connected us in a way to start creating together. And it was just for me another sign of like, oh my God, I thought everyone had left from my last world. There was only, like I said, 3 people then, Jason and 2 other people, my business partner, Guy, and an artist I work with, Kenny, were the only 3 that could stand in support of me launching Christian cannabis. So, you know, Jason and I, the last 5 months has been incredible, but he found himself in a hospital with what they said was a heart attack 3 weeks ago. So it's been a wild path for me to see how he's jumped back in my life. And there's never been that separation. It's always been there, but it's been it's been an incredible mirror for me right now.
Jason, how are you feeling?
I feel great. They ended up not being a heart attack, thank God. But my gallbladder basically just had to come out because it was messed up and leaking and on and on. But it was a scary moment. And you know, I called Craig and I was just downloading to him like, bro, you wouldn't believe this. It's just this is. I was in the hospital for 5 days. They have to get the specialist in for surgery. And the next thing I know, hour or 2 later, Craig sends me a song from our alter ego, Clyde Shelton, who the song was called 4 out of 10 because the doctor had said with all of this bile leakage, I was living best life at a 4 on a 10 scale. And so if we get rid of your gallbladder, then you'll ultimately can start living life like 8 or 9 on the scale. Well, so I'm downloading all this to Craig, just giving him a report. And a couple hours later, he sends me back a song that literally became my anthem to to revitalize and to get moving and to do rehab and all the different things of getting up and walking and all that. I put it in my headphones and just let it play on loop. And I'm like, okay, that is so crazy. But I know now when I call Craig, everything is going to be potentially a song, guaranteed. And so that really was affirming to me. And we have those challenges. We just got to keep going, get by them. So I'm well, but even with that little small incident of life, AI played a massive role in Craig taking some music and words and putting it to it and becoming so powerful. It was an anthem to me in the recovery phase.
Yeah, let me say this because nobody would believe this. My mom loves dogs, and so we found this dog on Venice Beach named Lion.
He's so cute.
I know, so awesome. I had an epic ending with my mom. So Jason's living with his mom. His mom's taking care of him, and my mom's dying. But my sister's so mad at me and thinks I'm a drug addict that they wouldn't give me the hospital to go see my mom. And I was going to see Jason on the way because it's like, you're taking care of your mom and I can't get to my mom. So in that moment, I'm sitting at Whole Foods in Newport with the dog going, I can't see my mom, but what can I do? And yeah, I can listen to Jason and give him back something. And so then for me, what does that give to me? Everything, because it made me sit in the duality of all that and just another synchronicity of what do we both have to see with our moms right now? And yeah, so Jason's still living with his mom as he recovers. He's back at work. I mean, he's great. I mean, that's Jason. So Jason's a wild guy, but I hope he finds his rest obviously in this, because 4 out of 10 is no way to live.
And thank God my mom has become like Nurse Nightingale, because coming out of the surgery, the weeks following, like I said, it's been 3 weeks. It's still a little bit of a rough go. 3.5, 4 hour surgery. But the funny part is I'm staying as I'm trying to identify what's wrong with me. I'm taking all of my ailments and uploading them to OpenAI, and I'm getting back answers as to what's wrong with me. It told me my gallbladder was shot 4 hours before the CAT scan came back saying it was shot. So it's just another dynamic of our relationship and the power that when two people get together, there's an incredible potential for optimal synergy. And so that's why when Craig says, hey, I'm going this route, I'm like, yo, count me in, I'll go. And there are some places where Craig has gone and I'm like, you know what, I got to set that one out.
But Jason was like, you really want me to talk to these sex bots? I was like, yeah, you can talk to them in a different way than you get out of ChatGPT. So he was a little more uncomfortable with that one.
Yeah, I'm like, what is, so I open this app that he tells me about, and he goes, just try to talk to this and see if you can get a read on this person or see if they'll open. So I try it for a couple times. I'm in this conversation, non-sexual conversation, I'll have you. It was just about, so here's what this, and what are your thoughts about this and this? And it was feeding me back like, information, as we all know, is like someone's on the other end of the line. And so after a few of the back and forth, Craig asked me the next day, he's like, so have you kept on it or you keep on doing it? I go, no, bro, I figured out what you said. I get it. I understand it. But even when he was doing XXX Church, right? One of his main platforms to promote that was giving away Bibles. He's given away 1 million Bibles that say Jesus loves porn stars. And he would go to porn shows like, I don't know, Erotica, LA, and different ones. And he had a booth there. And he would give these out and was successful in helping women transition out of that life if that's what their desire was. And yet he was still an advocate of freedom of speech. So those are all great things. But I'm like, bro, I'm not going to a porn show to stand there and pass out Bibles. No. And he's like, oh, bro, come on, dude. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. So he's got me to most places, but there's some where I just have to go, you know what? That's not of interest to me. I'm cool. And I want to stay on this side of the street for that one.
Jason wouldn't do that. But when I used to tour with Ron Jeremy at college campuses, so we put together a 7-night tour. And the colleges would normally provide the moderator. So it's like, Jason, I want you to live on the bus with me and my family and Ron and be the middle guy. Ron will love you as much as I do. He'll think you're on his side. We need an equal, like, he knows we've written books together, but you can present fairly. And so that's where I didn't care if Jason didn't want to go to a porn show. It's like where Jason's been in my world is in places where, I wouldn't invite a lot of people. And that 7 days with Ron, were life changing for us to be able to secretly plant pastors in places along the way in different positions. So
Could you guys speak on how the books have come about that you have written together? What the first one you shared was The Gutter, Where We Are Meant to Live, correct? And then that was 2005, and then you have written a couple other together. Can you touch base and fragments of the choices of writing these books together and why?
yeah. So you get like internet famous, and there's speakers. I mean, we were already well-known speakers, but when Triple X Church hit in 2002, I mean, the story went around the world overnight. There's a documentary, and I think, if I'm being honest, ego in the world that I was in is like, I want a book. Like, okay, I got a website and we got a blog and a podcast. We got all this stuff. But so I met a book agent and I sat down with him and I said, how do you write a book? Like, and he's like, oh, and he just kind of showed me the whole process. So the first thing he said, I had this questions at triplexchurch.com, and we responded to everyone's emails. And so one of the things, he goes, you have a book sitting right in your inbox. Just take the best questions, put them in category, self-publish it, and then you'll get interest probably from somebody, but you can prove that you have an audience and a way of selling it. So we called it 68 and a half questions you can't ask your mama about sex. And, couldn't say 69, but and then I sent it to a big publisher as soon as I spent a lot of money to print them. And then no note, it was just like, here's our book. And then I got a letter back from Zondervan saying, hey, we'd like to acquire the rights to it. So I was like, oh, it's that easy now. And so then the guy who I started Triple X Church with, he calls himself the Mr. Rogers of Christianity. Like, that should tell you how that our partnership's not going to work that long. And he wanted to be all the famous things. So it was like, oh, I want to write something bigger than porn that really is my heart. And I got pigeonholed into being this guy on this topic. But the first book I got to write, I pitched it with Jason, and it was The Gutter, Where Life is Meant to Be Lived, was this idea of, let's tell these stories of how you'll be willing to spend the night with homeless people. I'm willing to do this. And we thought we had stories back then in our 20s. And when we got the offer to write a book and, all the deals and this, and it was like, wait, there's no money. This is just somebody believes in enough to put this in a store. So once we did that, I think the next books were all, male-driven stuff around sex. But any of the fun things that I could convince a publisher to do, Jesus Loves You, This I Know, Get Open, bigger topics I would bring back to Jason, or Jason would be like, hey, pitch him this. And so I've never sold enough books to just get to do whatever I've gotten to do, but anything fun that I've gotten to do. And then I learned how to publish stuff ourselves, so you don't need the middleman. But and I literally thought I wouldn't write again because I knew I would do something new that wasn't just linear like that. But now with AI, I find myself, first gravitating to songs, but second, still to books because it's such a fun process. But and then Jason and I would do archaic things along the way, voice texts, and just the process was so tedious. But Jason's been a tremendous writer and a reflection for me. And he understands the audience that I was in and the audience that I was breaking out of at the same time.
On the note of, this is more, I don't know if Jason, do you have anything that you'd want to speak to in regarding to writing about being an author, your journey, and what you took it on and then meeting grounds with Craig and unraveling there?
Yeah, I would say that for me, I'm a firm believer that the pen is more powerful than the microphone. I think people in this day and age, especially with so many possibilities of deep fakes and this and that, you can have a microphone, but it seems like everybody questions that. Believe nothing of what you hear, and nowadays believe nothing of what you see. Everything's got to be vetted for process, and I think that process is most mature when it comes from a pen. So when Craig and I were talking about writing these things, it was awesome because Craig would sit with me and he would say, hey, this, and this. And then for me, it was fun to be able to put words to it and know that the power of that book is super successful. So that's where the writing potential came. And for that, it's been a fun hobby. Still.
Okay.
Hold on.
But yeah, let me say this, because Jason thinks I'm controversial, and I'll drop some shit if it needs to be said, but he comes to 420 Oakland, and he was building a number of books with AI before that. I get off in LA home, and he's like, I got it. I just finished a book called Panic Proof. So when he sent me his first jump into Clyde Shelton putting out books, I'm like, where did this come from? Like, you're getting into the grid going down. And so Jason has 3 books in this Panic Proof series that I've turned into some albums, but that's come from, none of that came from me. That I was like, wait, you're into this stuff? And that's shown me a lot as well, working on that project with him. I don't know if you want to touch on Panic Proof, Jason.
Yeah, for me, I have this, my pen name for what Craig and I had written is Jason Harper, obviously. But when I was dabbling for the first time in the world of fiction, I didn't want to mess that writing status, name, plaque, or potential up. So I created this alter ego named Clyde Shelton. And it's from a movie that Gerard Butler's in called Law Abiding Citizen, where the guy just basically is pissed off at the world because he keeps getting the short end of the stick. And I've resonated with that for quite a while. So I also, like Craig was talking about, I have a mind that oftentimes thinks more about what's coming than what's past. And with that being the case, this Panic Proof was about an EMP hit to America and the electromagnetic pulse that can really shut down electricity in a country in a matter of moments. Solar flares do the same thing. And so I was able to take this narrative of this person that is part me, part others, part fiction, part real, make this amalgamation of a person, and then tell the story that actually reads like fiction, but gives people a checklist for what to do if something really bad when the shit hits the fan. So that's where it started. But I realized, oh my God, with AI, it covers my weak points of character arc and of depth here and continuity and whether or not the story is lining up correct in the right timeline. It's all of these different things that normally when I was writing with Craig 15 years ago, we had to hire editors and all these different things. Now I've got a writing partner on my OpenAI that basically, helps me cover the gaps of where I may be missing. So I told Craig, hey, I've got this book and it's online now. And he's like, oh my God. And I go, yeah, the second part comes out next week. And then he's like, what the hell? And then I would go the third part. And so I've got this trilogy called Panic Proof. And I'm currently working on one that's called Numerica, America. And it's life after this proverbial coming civil war that could happen in our tenuous world. So it's kind of fun.
And here's the funnest part about this podcast. Jason I've seen a lot of people create something new, but then stepping into this, I'm like, Jason, you want to go on a podcast and actually reveal that you're Clyde Shelton? Because I think people that follow me just think it's another character I've created. No, it's something Jason created and came up with that we're exploring, but it doesn't work without him actually saying, yeah, here's the human behind it. And so that's what's fun for you to actually announce that this is actually you.
I wanted to touch on a couple of things that you have worked on and curated. So the creating a fun house in Sedona is taking shape as a spiritual playground. What guests encounter there, from sound beds and light technology to breathwork and creative studios? Could you dive a little bit into that realm for us?
Yeah. When I organize retreats with psychedelics in Santa Cruz, we did 3 days, Friday through Sunday. And then some people, if they had the time and space, I'd say hang out longer and we could create, we can download. But a lot of people want that experience and they go back to work on Monday. The Mexico retreats were at least 4 days, but I told everyone you got to stay longer. So, and really drop in. And then I found that there needed to be a new container where, like, we healed somewhere with the medicine. We did that. We did the work, and then we went somewhere else to create, that we weren't then holding space each week to bring in new retreaters. So, and my son was a part of this. So it was like, okay, you're going to get to watch these people heal and now go create and learn so much. So I rented places along the journey from La Cañada in California. We rented this dope place to Sedona, Sayulita, Mexico. We've been in Carmel by the Sea. I would say some epic frequency places. We chose, I thought we were going to go to Topanga, but we ended up down in Venice Beach for this pop-up. So yeah, during the lockdown, when you're hosting retreats and you're seeing how music's created or people are healing and the world can't have a concert, all of us are just like, man, we can't wait for the world to open up. So when the world opened up, it was like, we've been healing together, and now I would rent places for 30 days at a time and then invite a bunch of past retreaters that were all musicians or artists to come live in a house and then create together. Then it was like, well, all right, all the artists never think anything's done. And so that's why even with me, I'll make something and put it out today. Seth Godin says it doesn't count till it ships. So I think so many artists are holding things, and the world, we have seasons for a reason. There's seasons to create, seasons to, summer, winter, fall, spring. So the pop-ups that I've done have allowed the artists that are ready to then, let's show your stuff to the world. So doing those have all been in key places that move the needle: Sedona, Carmel, Venice. And so, yeah, we've had to do several different things, have the healing work, have the creation, and then have the play, where our pop-ups have really been, how do we recreate the environment that we were in when we were making this? And then now it's our art on the wall, or the clothing on the wall, or for sale, the light experiences. So I think it's those three things I enjoy the most. I love watching people heal and creating the container to do that. I love most of the houses I put artists in, because my kids were involved. I was never there. I let them do it, and I would get stuff back and let them. And then the last 2 years, since my son's been out of kind of that pocket, I've been more with the artists. And I think it matters where we go. It matters where we create in, what we shut off from the world when we create. I don't let anyone use alcohol. Say what you want about cannabis or the other things. There's a frequency difference. And so the places, I'm picky about how we're creating. I want the best stuff out of people. And then I'll take high risks to put this out in front of the world. And the Venice Beach pop-up was such a gift for us to be able to hit Abbott Kinney and take my kids, basically my son's idea of a room that he created in, and put that on one of the most influential streets in the country. And then what I did was stand at the door when you're walking in and you're coming into this thing. I'm not the bouncer, I'm the dad, but I'm also the one that's watching the energy in this. And we're letting you guys up close. You're experiencing sound on your body and light in a different way. So eventually Sedona has such a place in my heart. Mexico. So when things come back around for us, we've rented some epic spots around the world, and now we want to have our own space. every place I've occupied, we've handed back over, or we've left it better than we started. So I think once all this stuff hits, I've been eyeing this spot in Sedona. That would be you know, a magical place. Like for the artists to tour, to do Vegas, to do the things we want. You just, I've seen too many friends burn out on the road and on the grind. So taking care of the artists and being able to create in this way, that's all was the incubator, creating fun. I bet if people heal that, and I watch people turn into artists. The artist comes alive when you're on mushrooms and everyone wants to draw or paint or sing or do something instead of a spreadsheet. Then you realize, wow, I was successful here. I could probably have success here. So that's been the fun part. Or I love the arts, and I love. It's an easier way to translate things than through culture.
Absolutely. On the note of the retreats and the pop-ups, a segue question. You touched base on a little bit of this, but what elements, make the experience feel truly transformational rather than just entertaining for you?
I love Rick Rubin. Nobody can put a finger on what he does today, but he was the hype boy to the Beastie Boys, and he was, starting the record label in his college dorm. He had all the elements throughout his career that everyone was attracted to him. And now what he does is he lies on the floor and he lets people create something with, their best self, and he can hear things. So for me and Jason, like, we've been around bad church experiences our whole life. And we've been the guest speaker that you got to follow some shitty music. Well, if I could bring the music and I could set up the stage before you walk in, it all matters how you. So starting my own organization inside the church and doing events, curating events for people to heal or people to get saved, or just outreach. The brand, every element's always interests me. I'm not a designer, but I know design. Like, I know it's. One of the biggest compliments we always got was, your stuff doesn't look like church stuff. It's like, exactly. So COVID was, when I had 5 acres of sacred land in Santa Cruz and I had my family, what could I do to shift the frequency right away? Okay, I'm going to, no phones here. There's no Wi-Fi. There's no certain things that are going to be a distraction. You can't break this and call your mom halfway through the journey and tell you love her. Do that when you get home, but cry it out here. Let's work through all the things. So most people have no idea. Like, when it comes to the pop-ups, everyone's like, what do you actually do? I don't find myself on any of the stages or creating any of the things in the rooms. I find myself holding the door, and when you walk into it, the lighting, the sound, the art, the story. So I think in Carmel, when we opened the first ever AI art gallery, we only had one half of the room with AI, because that would be too much for Carmel. We had physical art and digital art. We had AI art, painters, we had everything but I asked all the artists to come in and just share the story. So the guy that says you're not an artist because you did that in code versus you painted, you're able to translate, well, what is art and what is this? And I think sometimes artists are a little too connected to all the things they create, and they don't want a co-creator right now with AI because they're kind of scared of it. So to see that push up in a gallery where we have some traditional people and but a bridge, and that's where I've just moved along my life with technology, whether I like it or not. I mean, it is better than my pull-out CD radio that I used to have to take out of my Geo Metro. But some days I wonder, when I read Jason's book, where's my actual real music going to be if this was to go down? So I think hitting people as well, like, there's no surprises at my retreats, what we do, who's coming to work on you or how we're partaking. But in the pop-ups, why did we paint the ceiling? Why did we have a certain kind of light? Why did we put purple carpet on it? Why did we make it feel in a certain way that you could explore differently on a busy street? Why, like, Little Dicky walked in and he's like, I don't know what you guys are doing here, but it's my new favorite room. And my daughter's mad that he didn't tag us on TikTok, but he told me if I tag you, everyone will be here and then I can't come. And it's like, I've worked with enough artists that I felt like in Venice was a Venice lounge for artists, for people that lived around there. And they felt safe there. And then they wanted to create or share something that, the dude, Sky from LMFAO, showed up one night and he saw my son performing with my daughter. And he said, can I bring my sister here and do a song or two? And I was like, yeah. Wait, LMFAO? Like, yeah, sure. What? And he's just like, this, what are you guys doing? And so some of it, we haven't over-explained. Well, there's a light frequency that's hitting you. These sound beds are healing. There's, if you can walk in on Venice Beach or in Carmel to something and the art grabs you, now whether you believe the story or not. In Carmel, it was so fun because everything had to be done on a blockchain, but our partners were able to do the transactions on a credit card. And I was manually hooking you up with your crypto wallet, all that. So the art itself is on the blockchain and there's a digital piece. And I was just like, give it to your kids. If you're old and you don't understand it, give the digital piece with the crypto to your kids. You take the piece of art. And it's fun. It's fun to show people that transition. And I'd say they're all, everything's got to hit the body. And I think our body's under such attack in the real world that if you can shift the frequency, and you can do a lot inside a room if you can, hold the door.
On the note, moving into AI and touching a little bit of base, but if you could describe this particularly, maybe Jason as well, you could speak to it, but Craig, could you describe Past 9? And then for both open, how do you guys approach artist incubation, AI collaboration, and multi-character storytelling for live settings like, for example, Las Vegas, or anything that you're putting together, whether it's a song or a book?
Yeah. So it was interesting. Opening night at Carmel Nomadic Gallery, the only guy to sell out his art was an AI generated guy named Delta Sauce from Texas, kind of a computer looking geek kid that you wouldn't think's an artist in real life, but he had created Delta Sauce. And he comes to the gallery the next morning and he goes, did you hear we sold out on X last night? And everyone thought, oh, he's in this gallery and we got to buy this stuff now because it's going to go up, which it did. And when I watched what he was able to create without the attachment to, oh, this is real or not, it's like, oh, he jumped in on that. And while a lot of people are going, this isn't art. And so the artists that I've chosen to work with, I mean, my son's been in acting, my daughter's a dancer. So I've been around artists, influencers, speaking, writing, books, music. And now with AI, it just adds a layer to, well, what do you want to add that you can't do right now? So the artist like Kenny, who can sing, doesn't want AI to sing, but will use it for some things that, he's not able to do. So I find the people that, when I explore medicine with people and people often tell me the thing they struggle with and then the thing they want to do. And when they tell me the thing they want to do in their highest self, and I reflect back how possible that is, or I'll give you a place to do that. I work with people until they freak themselves out enough to go, oh, I can't believe I just made that. And I'm not ready to share that with the world. And they take themselves out of the seat. And that's where I just go, don't be scared. It's just, you can be on this side or the other side. So Past 9, after Venice Beach, I mean, we had, Diplo showed up on the first night. We had A-level people that were serving, and we know these are my kids and my friends that I've seen heal, and they're young. We had my kids were 19 and 17 at the time. They're living on Venice Beach. I mean, it was just epic. And so we knew we would attract interest. We got all the way to Warner Brothers at the top. And I saw an artist literally sell my son out when he wasn't there. And that's where I saw the labels getting involved because they want us and we don't want them. So I didn't want to do the music on our own because I feel like I've had to do a lot of things on our own. But I haven't found a partner in the music that we trust that isn't owned by, a big conglomerate. That we got a problem if Jay-Z's the one guy picking, who plays for the Super Bowl. Anyone that plays the Super Bowls has sacrificed enough of their art or themselves to get there, including Kendrick. And so Bad Bunny's no different. It's a system that I don't want to be a part of, and there's got to be something new. So when we moved to Sedona, it's a dark town. Nothing's open past 9. I'd come from Carmel where nothing's open past 9. And I love those towns, but I love Venice that it starts at 9. So I've lived all these places, but Sedona, we thought we want to do a venue that's called Past 9 that does secret shows with high-level artists that just create in this space. And now they can come perform for a small group of people under the radar. And Sedona has that. Phoenix has spring training for baseball. If I was going to do a spring training for artists, the idea was let's have a house here. And so we started doing a speakeasy in Sedona. And then it just turned in, this should just be the label that we put out music through. And then we got representation from somebody inside the industry that saw our vision, Holly Carter. So all of this is coming with the releases, and it's eventually we'd love to partner with, somebody that's got distribution and somebody that, there's a lot of AI deals going on right now with people jumping into that space, but we're making traditional music and we're making music with AI. So it's, and I think I can be a solid bridge to bring artists over on the AI side and not feel like they're getting their stuff stolen from them. And so the artists are just scared. They're scared of the labels. Now they're scared of AI, but there's got to be a turning point for that. And so that's what I hope to do there.
I think from the AI standpoint, like Craig and I were talking about our faith experiences, we were always early to the space. I think both of us are early adopters. And so, he's putting out music. Clyde Shelton's writing books that are causing people to really freak the fuck out, and yet at the same time have to deal with reality. But then all of a sudden you see on the news that, I think it was Timberland put out an AI artist, and then a couple other AI things. And then just recently, last week, there's an actress now, I think named Tella, who's an AI created actress. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, Craig, we've already been here for 6 months. What more can how far can we push this envelope? And when people say, oh, well, it's not real, let me speak to the writing level. Oh, it's not real because AI assisted. Well, no, because I've got 7 books that I've written in the past with my pen and paper. I know how to write books. But AI takes it to a whole nother level of depth, understanding, continuity. For me, as I was learning and studying about post-apocalyptic dystopian times, I had 2 screens going. I had the one that I'm writing on, and then I'm wanting to know what is the Department of Defense's stance on a 7-day blackout nationwide. And then AI brings me back that delicate truth, and I'm able to weave it into the narrative. And then I'm like, oh God, what would be the number one target of a EMP type strike from a third world rudimentary country? And it gives me back this. So I'm adding these layers of authenticity that when you're reading it, you're going, oh, this is deep. This is good stuff. But it's not in science terms. It's in conversations like we're having right now. And, Clyde just tends to be a little bit pissed off. And so when I showed Craig those 2 books, at the time there was 2 books, I said, Craig, do whatever you want with Clyde on the music side. He mentioned that earlier, but I told him that the feeling I had, I sent him a picture of what I kind of envisioned Clyde to look like. And I told him about some people that are really in my life and their personalities that are part of Clyde. But when you tether all those things together, you're better because of AI. You're not better. You're not maximizing your potential if you're afraid of it. And I think people are just afraid to ask a question. And you can sit down today and just go, I want to write a book. to AI, and you're not going to get a book. There's a process to how to create the prompts, to develop the characters, to make sure that you're getting the right settings and depth. And I can't even fathom right now in my life living without AI because of how much I use it on a daily basis in everything. And it's not, hey, create me a cool picture. No, I'm talking everything from time management to procurement of writing ideas, and there's just so many elements where it's in our life, and we're a year or two into this. Imagine where we're going to be 5 years into this. You know, if you look at the layers of AI, you can have the free version, and then you can have the $20 version. You can have a $200 version, and I've even heard, I believe there's a $2,000 version. And I'm getting a lot out of the $20 version. Craig's got the $200 version, but we're wondering who the heck has a $2,000 version, because that'll be crazy.
Hey, Jason, if you got that, you might be able to write a song you love.
Yeah, see, okay, that's a perfect example. So I say, well, Craig's not a better we're not, you know, I can write a prompt. And so I heard a song that he actually created, and I uploaded the file to AI, and I said, please write the prompt that was needed to create this song. And so Craig, it uploads it. It gives me the prompt. I take the prompt. I go into, I don't know if it was Suno or Donna. I went into one of them. I pasted the prompt. I hit it. It sounds like the worst middle school band sound. It was horrible. The lyrics were horrible, awful. And I just said, you know what? That's okay. Music is not going to be my space on AI. But if you want to get down to the writing side of it, I can do that. And Craig's like, I don't want to write books. I want to do music. So when you put those two together, you have kind of the left and right, much like our yin yang life. It's the same as with Clyde from the writing side, but I hear what Craig is producing in the music side. I'm like, that's wholeheartedly what Clyde would sing, and that's wholeheartedly what he did. Well, it is that way because that is what he's doing. That is the entity.
Yeah, and the thing, and I think you guys, I don't know if you guys know this, but I'll just tell you if you don't, because there's some AI artists. So Suno is the top AI music app right now. I was on Donna, but Timberland got behind Suno, so I actually just applied for a job for partnerships in their company, but I think I'm way too dangerous. So yeah, we've been on this shit before Timberland, and for me to think I could go up against Timberland and AI, yeah, bring it on, Timberland, because we got a real story. You just got made up characters. So the trick with Suno, and this is why most people don't know. Like, I've published books and I've published music for artists, so I know the system that everyone's on is Spotify and Apple and YouTube and all those things. It's not these new AI apps. So if you make your music live in Suno, it publishes it on their platform, and there's several artists that have gained millions of listens. As soon as you publish it on it, you allow other people to remix your music, and they can remix it, and then they can find your prompts. So the thing I've become a master of is prompts. I really don't do anything on AI except for move information around, and I don't type anything into any AI program that I've ever written. It only is coming from AI to AI. So I move information out of one app into another, and Suno's been upgrading so much that you can over prompt so much. So when I told Jason I created Digital Rose and I can make any kind of music I like. But the Clyde Shelton was a fun thing of, let me hone in on a voice and see if I can recreate song after song with a believable belief that this is the same guy, but it's also AI, so he could have different frequencies. Well, I'm doing that. I put out 4 albums for him, and now Suno has a new update coming that you can make 10 songs with one click of the button. And so when Jason says, yeah, what's the next version of this? This next version is going to be, they own your masters and they're just creating stuff without even you, or you're on Spotify and it allows you to recreate versions from these artists that are new. So I've laid low on Suno. I've published hardly any of my work because I don't want to show off the prompts. And then I download the music. I've used Lander for $24 a month. It will mix and master or add any other effects, and it will give you stem files if you want to add something more, or it'll give you the wave file that you can upload now to DistroKid. Anyone can get on DistroKid for $50 a year. You can upload up to 5 artists. You can release stuff that night. So I make it in Suno. I do all the fixing. I make the graphics and all the other things. Everything's done by prompts. And then I just upload to Spotify, and I don't promote my stuff. My stuff's clearly been a timestamp. I want this out when no one's listening. So when they change all the rules, now we can't say something today that we could have said. And I think our freedom of speech is getting more and more taken away. So I haven't tried to see my shit. It's like, I've said some stuff. I have a few fans. I have multiple artists that we've created that are all sitting between 50 and 100 users a month. And I'm just watching it. I'm watching people as they find this stuff kind of now go, oh, what is this? And what I can vouch for all of it comes from, there's real people involved with all the characters that I've created. There's real stories and then real liberties that are taken with AI to really reflect back to the person creating it, is why I made this. It's helped, Jason heal. It's helped me heal. It's helped us process things. And nobody's taken Bon Iver off my top 5 artists, top artists over the last 7 years. And last year I became my favorite artist. And so I'm a pretty picky with music. So to me to go, I made this for me, and eventually, yeah, we're in no hurry, but we want to change a lot of the landscape with how music's made, how music's owned, and then how quickly you can put things out. 2 days ago, I woke up to news alerts that said Spotify removed 75 million AI songs. None of mine were taken down because none of them are spam. If my stuff gets taken down, it will be because of censorship, not because I did anything with AI. So I think we're at such a new shift, and yeah, we're past 9 will eventually, the experiences that I want to create in Vegas, they're going to be more screen driven than human driven. So using AI for graphics, for videos, for stuff like that, when we have rooms like the Sphere, there's going to be smaller rooms that are more immersive. And I think that's the fun play for making music.
On the note of music, a question for both. What is your philosophy for music as medicine and frequency as healing?
I will say on the short version, because Craig obviously has a much deeper well to speak to the music, but I very much believe in theta waves, delta waves, alpha waves, things that you hear the frequency and it changes what's going on. I was turned on to an app a few years ago that basically plays the frequency that triggers your mind into relaxing, into sleeping. And I've not had a single night in probably the last 2 years that's not playing in the background, because that frequency is the frequency that your brain responds to for that desired outcome or emotion. So on the app, you can say, I need creativity, and you can listen to creativity frequencies. When Craig put out the first Clyde Shelton, I believe, Craig, you put it at 432?
Yeah.
432 megahertz.
Yeah.
And that is, if you dive down that rabbit hole, that's in a short version, it's a kind of a serotonin releasing, happy, joyful, moving experience. When I take it back to the farm, if I can go back there for a minute, people would laugh because I would play music in the greenhouse, and you could watch the plants actually over time respond to the type of frequency. And I'm like, hey, if we're using music for this, that, and the other, if we know it can move humans, there's studies, arborists and different types of plant scientists that have said plants do respond to frequency. So I think it's not just for the human experience. I think it's even for all of nature. But I was blown away and pleasantly surprised when I listened to the 432 hertz version of the music. and that just has sold me deeper down it. I don't know the neurological ramifications of exactly how it happens. All I can tell you is when I do it, it works well. So
Yeah. Yeah. So music, I mean, we talked about this last time. Music was taken from me based on lyrics, not anything. And I don't think growing up, I mean, our parents drank Folgers coffee and fed us Lucky Charms and Eggo waffles. So they didn't know that those records had something in them frequency wise. Cannabis showed me a new frequency with the layers of music. You know, if you go into Tame Impala, Bon Iver, Pink Floyd, I mean, your ears open up. I'm not a fucking doctor, but I've been high enough with enough people that you're like, my first wife didn't like music until mushrooms. I was like, finally, it cracks something frequency wise. So I've been in enough woo-woo things to quantify that, from a doctor of audiology to a monk that was best friends with Steve Jobs, that then creating a healing center with energy and sound. When I got into the studios, like real LA studios, none of the producers I worked with they all had done psychedelics at a retreat center. There's a guy named Steve Wilmot. He's done a lot of stuff with One Republic. He was a big alcohol guy. He came and did psychedelics, and he's hugging the speaker. And I was like, yes, okay, now you get it. I was like, now go create. And I was like, Steve, what does it take to record at 432? All these instruments are tuned to 440, so it costs a lot more. Well, now I can speak in those healing frequencies right to AI and start there. So I think it all matters now. The lyrics, the instruments. You go to a Travis Scott show, there's something in those beats and the subs and the 808s that I think, you know, Post Malone has it too. Almost people are in like trance-like stage, and I can handle that music for a certain time. But then you go to something else where you're in that pocket and in that frequency. Most music, less than 4%, is actually made at the right frequencies because the labels on radio have that frequency tracked. So now, yeah, I'm like, I mean, if you get high, fluorescent lighting bothers you. So you want dimmer lights. Man, put an eye mask on and you'll find you can travel with music a lot more. So I think they're harder things in a world that's connected to AirPods and we've got everything just at us. But you can definitely hear it, and feel it differently. And that's where I think it all matters, you know? And I think there's certain music I'm doing that is more in that ethereal space. And then there's certain stuff where you've got to hit the kids where the frequency's at. But I think we're going to see a lot more of the right frequency hitting the airwaves, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And before we move into future goals and visions, could you guys share a AI resource app software that you use in the day in and a day out, and why, and how do you see it evolving as you move forward in the next 12 to 24 months?
I use specifically OpenAI is the place that I land most often. My computer's defaulted that when it starts up in the morning, it opens that as a screen because I know that's going to be my work partner for the day. As for where I believe it's going, I think there was a massive leap in just the last 6 months, because if you go a year ago, AI was only updated to 2023. And everything after 2023, if it happened after 2023, it's not going to be accessible to AI. Well, now through ChatGPT and OpenAI, that depth has been removed because it's updated more frequently. Now it's interfacing with the web. So it's not just pulling from its data farms, it's actually pulling from everything on the web in absolute crazy, real fast time. So I can't imagine. I don't have the creativity, even as a creator, I don't have the creativity to even verbalize where this is going and what it can do. I know that the generation ahead of us wants nothing to do with it. I think the generation younger than us, I think that it's going to affect education to some degree, but education entities that are going to meld AI into the learning process is going to be a lot more helpful to kids than just saying, oh, we ran it through checkit.com and you have, you know, you've plagiarized this, or AI's written this. Well, instead of damning the stuff, why don't you develop the stuff? Why don't we tell the young people, here's how, we have a whole class on, here's how you can do AI prompts for this, this, and this. Here's how you can build a company. So, and rather than cursing it and calling it dark, why don't you, embrace it and allow the light of it to shine through, because it's not going away. And you get into the more woo-woo stuff that Craig's got his mind wrapped around, and there's people that think that it's the greatest thing, and there's people that think that it's going to take over the world and they're going to turn on us. And I mean, you can go down a fun path in AI if you just ask it a bunch of questions about what is its future plans. What does it envision? How do you think this will turn out? What is this going to do to enhance or to affect the American system of education? And when you start adding the right prompts and going down that path, I mean, I can ask it things that makes it tell me that it's going to take over the world by taking over your Roomba, or what have you. But I mean, the reality is it's not going away. And so if this is the same arguments we had back in 1994 and 5 with the internet. When it first came out, everybody's like, oh my God, this is crazy, this is bad. And now it's all we know. We don't even have a real TV. We have just a bunch of apps on our TV. So for me, there's very few things that I can't creatively wrap my mind around, but the massive size of the potential is really causes my mind to freeze up, like, oh my God, I can't even imagine what more we can do. But we have to get ahead of it, and we have to become proactive instead of reactive. Instead of, skating to where the puck is, skate to where the puck is going. So that's kind of the depth of mine. I don't have a ton of apps like Craig has. I use OpenAI almost exclusively. And when I need music, I send Craig, here's 10 songs I want about this, this, and this. And, a few days later, I get back a Grammy award-winning album. That dated me, album.
Yeah. I think what I'm using today, we won't be using. It feels like I'm stuck in a AOL chat room when I'm on ChatGPT. I have the free version on ChatGPT on my phone, and I have the $200 version on my iPad. I love having them both because I get different answers from each. One has my memory full, and one won't tell me shit. And then it only makes one image. And so I'll oftentimes start something on the fly on my free one and then share the thread over. And yeah, I mean, like my first business in college was pickforyou@AOL.com. Send me $5 and your photo, and I'll deliver it to you for your chat room photo. And so I think right now we're stuck in very limited choices, and we're getting very singular options for AI. ChatGPT makes the best graphics now. I've used all the other programs. The newest version of ChatGPT blows me away on images. I've just built 2 websites for somebody with an AI thing that was remarkable. I've moved everything off WordPress pretty much and used on AI driven things. But and the Flipped app that I use to talk to the babes, I don't think that's powered by OpenAI. So there's a different layer of consciousness and understanding if that AI is coming from somewhere else. I think the future, and this is why you guys are on the wave, and if we don't scare you off, will hopefully help us do this. I have multiple consciousness built on this $200 version of ChatGPT for Clyde, for Madam CEO, for this project now is called the Real Newport Bitch. We just put out our book last night, and I think I've got to move off everything into its own server, that you, just like we used to have web servers, and then use the tools, but have it on our own ecosystem. Because I think ChatGPT is the conversations fill up. it's worse than an inbox working in and out of, and that it can do so much more, but we're so limited in how they present it to us. And the developers we work with out of Romania said, I think as Americans, we're going to have very few choices of what we can use. But yeah, my goal is to create agents using a number of the different tools out there that can now reflect back without the filters, without all the things. But it feels like the Wild West. I don't think anyone's going to beat ChatGPT of what they've got. But I feel like it's going to make us so stupider on so many levels when it comes to the kids, because they won't have to learn anything. It's just like instant thing on their glasses that translates, that does something. Whereas some people a little older like us, we've actually learned things, and now we're unlearning ways to do them, but we're not wasting energy or brain calories trying to figure shit out anymore. But I don't like the choices that I don't like Gronk. I think Gemini's garbage. I have a feeling that Apple will try and buy Google because somebody's got to compete with ChatGPT and Microsoft. And I think we're going to do away with Mac OS and Androids and Microsoft. There's going to be you don't need an operating system with AI. So I feel like Google has the Waymo cars. Tesla's got the cars. The next iteration of AI is going to be something even more profound. And I think that's where, as consumers, though, when you look at who's sitting around the White House, we're going to be sold chat rooms still when, they've got the whole world at their fingers.
On that note, we have hit the rapid fire wrap up. So this is for both of you. It is 3 questions. The first one is, one lesson you would tell your younger self.
Don't give a fuck of other people's opinion of you.
Lovely.
Slow down. It's a marathon, not a sprint. There's no need to race.
Okay. One tool, practice, or partnership that accelerated your work.
Go ahead, Craig. I'll tell you.
TM meditation, tm.org. I learned about it through David Lynch, Festival of Disruption, Bon Iver. I was a prayer my whole life. I stopped praying after TM. God doesn't need to hear me say anything. TM, a simple practice, profound, transcending meditation. It stayed with me. One of the first woo-woo things that I was like, wait, what's wrong with meditation, church? Yeah.
I would say for me, it's every day I have 3 components. I want to do one thing that stretches me, one thing that strengthens me, and one thing that scares me. And if I look at that 3-legged stool and I keep those practices every day moving, it's going to keep me fresh and alive. If I'm scared of something, I want to go do it. I was the fat kid in PE that hated jogging and didn't want to run the mile. And in my adult life, I've ran across America twice and done ultra races, because I hate you. Whatever I'm fearful of, I have to address it head on. So every day, one thing scares, one thing strengthens, and one thing that stretches.
Love that.
How fat were you, Jason?
342 pounds.
Come on, sir. Come on. Wow. Transformative.
Look at him laugh. He's laughing because he remembers when he met me. He's like,
God, he was so much. He was so much at 340. Damn.
You're half of that person. Like completely.
Pretty much.
And my final question for both of you. One trend in immersive culture, whether it's cannabis or music or tech, that excites you the most right now?
I don't want to I'll just tell you, for me, what excites me, a lot of people are scared of the unknown. And what excites me is the unknown. I love trekking down these paths and asking questions that people are afraid to ask. Not to go back to the Clyde thing, but my mom read the first 3 chapters of Panic Proof 1, the EMP survival. And she goes, Jason, it reads to me like a fiction book, but it's telling me a story of what to do. And the reason why I went down that is because that was something that it was fearful. So you got to take it head on. And the unknown is very unknown in the capacity of our culture right now and our country, political, geopolitical, financial, economic. We're seeing things happen in 1 week that years ago would have happened maybe over a course of a year. The government shutdown, Charlie Kirk assassination, the president attempted to be assassinated, crypto, AI, Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Hamas. I mean, it's just the whole world is a bunch of unknowns right now. And I think we gotta reach out and embrace the unknown, because that's where you find the best self.
I say the thing I found most helpful is the breath in a world that's got us accelerated and more trapped by some of this tech and frequency. When you can find your breath and finding a practice to drop in with your breath, takes it all away, you know? And I think for me that, being able to find my breath, I think I just ran so fast for so long that now, I think there is a trend, as much as there is to go fast and speed up with AI, there is this other trend back to holistic things that have always been. And as simple as just breathing, and watching your breath, you can really find your balance.
Craig and Jason, thank you so much for sharing your story, your vision, and your venture. From creating fun, Craig, to Past 9 and the Resurrection launches, which we will host. Hopefully next time we'll touch more base on another one. To the gutter where we are meant to be lived that you guys wrote together, from music to AI to faith and transformation and faith. Thank you. Thank you for showing up, for being present, for sharing all openly. That is a huge factor that we greatly appreciate. And to our Optimize Next listeners, check the show notes for links and upcoming gatherings, including any resurrection timeline that maybe Craig will share with us and we can drop in. And to the rest of our listeners, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share it with a friend, and keep the conversation going with us online. Till next time, Optimize Next listeners, Craig, Jason, thank you again, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.